One of the questions I get asked a lot about AI hairstyles is, do you have an API? And the answer was always yes, but it was pretty poorly documented. So today we spent some time going through and creating a dedicated page for it. So let me walk you through it. First of all, quite happy with this first section, get your API key. So if you are logged in, you can simply press this button and generate an API key. That's quite nice. I like that. The builder in me is excited by that. Secondly, this is a paid API. So what that means is, for developers like myself, you will have to pay to just test it out, which is kind of crap. So we added a test mode so that you can test the entire thing end to end without actually having to pay any money, which is kind of nice. Thirdly, we have an endpoint then for getting all the current styles. So we're constantly adding to the styles in the library. And so if you're integrating with AI hairstyles, you need to know what are the latest styles, what are the latest preview images, what are the latest tags for those styles. And that is what this endpoint is for. So API/styles will give you a JSON array of all of the styles that we currently have available. And you can do what you want. You can display them in your app any way you want. You've got your API key. You've got all the available styles that are possible. Let's make our first request. For that, we have an endpoint API/preview. Your API key should be in the x-API-key field. And we also have some other required fields. We have the image, and that's required. Ideally, should be a square image, although if it's not square, it'll be cropped with padding. Make sure the subject's face is clearly visible, and there's enough area around the person to fill in a large style, let's say, if that's requested. Maximum file size is 8 megabytes, but there's really no point going that big even. Ideally, compress it down before sending to the API. The hairstyle and hair color are both required, so make sure you add them. And then we've gender, callback URL, and mode. Gender is optional, but it's better to provide it. Callback URL, we'll talk about this in a sec. But it's used to specify an endpoint that will be called with the result of the preview generation. Mode then, as mentioned earlier, is you can pass a test parameter here, and that will effectively just mean that you're not charged. It won't actually generate the style, it won't go through the whole process, but it will go through the queue system and means that you can test your polling or callback URL without being charged. The response to this request will be a JSON response, and in there you'll have a data property with an ID, and in this case we have 1234. That's important to remember because you can use that later on if we need to poll to get the result of that request. We've queued our request. Now we need to get the result of that request, and there's two ways. One is with polling, and one is with a webhook. The webhook, as I mentioned earlier, you can specify in the callback URL option in the original request, and with that, the result of the job will be sent to that endpoint, and you can do whatever you want with it. Second is polling. You can use the same endpoint /API/preview, call it with a get with the preview ID that we got from our initial request, and that will return a JSON. It'll either be status queued or status success. If it's status success, you'll have a data property here with the images in the array and a status of done. One thing to note here is that if you poll more than once per second, you will get throttled. So don't do that, please. That's basically it. If you have any questions, please reach out. Any suggestions actually for improvement as well, I'm all ears. There is a link here at the top to the more in-depth API documentation, which there's a few more examples and stuff. Check them out. Thank you for watching.